Becca and Brooke or Brooke and Becca?
Doesn't matter.
I don't
Becca
know.
and
You
Brooke.
tell us.
Hey, this is Becca and Brooke, and
Hi.
you're listening to...
Are we saying hi?
Yes.
I need a script.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Hi. This is Becca and Brooke, and you're listening to the Super Gamer Podcast.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Super Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the new Super Gamer Podcast, the VGM Con Extravaganza episode part 1. This will be a two-part thing. I was just at VGM Con. I'm literally back just a couple hours ago. It was amazing. Highly recommend for people to check out the VODs and to go to it next year. While there, I had the opportunity to interview a few people. That's what this episode and the next episode of the Super Gamer Podcast will be. So 2 interviews in this episode, 2 interviews next week, all of them great. Thank you so much to everyone who sat down to talk with me, and very cool meeting so many of you. And without further ado, on with the show. Guests right now are musicians, arrangers, and music educators, panelists and performers here at VGM Con. We have Becca Michaelson and Brooke Ferd. Thanks for being here.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having us.
I guess I'll start just so people kind of know the voice and the name, if you could say who you are.
I'm Brooke Ferd. I play oboe, English horn, also some woodwinds. I got my start as a VGM cover artist many years ago, and now I've just kind of evolved into like kind of more the freelance music stuff.
I'm Becca Michaelson. I go by Flutiful online. I play the flute, obviously. And I'm very new to this community, and I just found it like a year and a half ago, and I'm so glad that I did. It's such a great place to be. It's such a great community.
So I took in your panel incorporating VGM in elementary music classrooms. How did this idea come about? Like, you two kind of met, you connected online, I believe, and you bonded over your shared experience of being music educators. At what point were you like, hey, we should totally collab and like make lessons out of this?
Well, I think I creeped on your Twitch stream. And I was like, oh my God, Brooke, we're both music teachers. We should talk about lessons. I think that's how it started.
It is very rare to find like a very specific niche, because VGM is a niche of a niche.
Yeah.
Music education is a niche of a niche, and elementary music is another niche.
And then woodwind players.
And woodwind
like,
players.
What?
So instantly when I found out that you were a music teacher and a woodwind player, like around the same age, we were like, we have to collab, we have to meet, and yeah.
We met at VGM Con last year.
In person, yeah.
In person, yeah.
And then we also I've flown to Minneapolis, we've spent time together, and we've done panels together.
And I flew to California.
Yes! Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Becky, you said something interesting during the panel. You said we are sometimes that, you're talking about students, we're sometimes that person's only music education, like for life. And yeah, I kind of thought, what is the goal of a music teacher when you have someone who's like not into the music, like they're not going to have a life where that's really a big part of what they do?
Wow, that is a great question. I think my goal is make a safe environment, make them feel welcome in my space, and make them happy. Make them find something about music that they like, because there's so many different modalities that we talked about in our panel. There's something for everybody to like in our classrooms.
Yes. And yeah, and I would say too, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be VGM. I mean, finding that point of connection with your students is very, very important. And so when I teach, if there's a student who, is more of a difficult student, or maybe is not happy about coming to music class, you just kind of find that point of connection. And why we love VGM is because so many students like video games, like 76, the statistic is 76%. We can reach so many students doing VGM just with our lessons.
Yeah. I think another thing is that our goal is not to teach future, music majors. That's not our goal. We're teaching the kids in our classroom, and we want them to love music. That's the goal.
Yeah.
We want them to be able to have a lifelong appreciation of all different kinds of music as well.
And I think it's cool too because elementary school is one of the, at least where I am at, it's the only time where students are required to do music.
Yes.
And then beyond elementary, it's a choice. So every kid is getting to experience music. We can reach every single kid in the school. When I taught elementary, I had 850 kids at that elementary school. So I was the only teacher on campus that taught every single student, which is an amazing place to be in.
I wish you could see my face up at 800 kids. Oh my God.
850. Yeah.
I have like 500, which is still a lot.
Yes. I was at a big school.
Yeah.
You already mentioned kind of how you got into the VGM community here, but Becca, when you kind of got into video game music, you were transcribing Ocarina of Time music for your flute in 5th grade. You've been making VGM covers since 2017. How did VGM kind of foster your love of music, or did it?
Wow, I have loved video game music since I was a kid, and people always thought that was weird, but I'm so happy to find a bunch of weirdos that also like the same music as me. So I'm just so happy to be here and happy to collaborate with amazing musicians like Brooke and other people who are here. And I don't know if I answered the question, but I'm just happy
rambling,
to be here.
That's okay. I mean, I would say for me, I've loved video game music since I was a kid as well. I have been playing video games for a long time. We have a very similar experience with Ocarina of Time being kind of our first major inspiration for loving VGM. And now that I found the community, it's just amazing. And I know I speak for Becca and I know I speak for many when I say that looking at everyone, they inspire me.
Yes.
I see the talent and I see everyone around me, and it's just very inspiring and very open. And I love it.
Well put.
Very quickly, how do you say ocarina?
Ocarina.
Ocarina.
It occurs to me, I think I probably do both.
I don't know what the official pronunciation is.
That was a joke in our panel.
Yes.
And it landed.
Yeah.
This is not the first time you've given this panel. You presented it at the Minnesota Music Educators Association. How was it received there?
Well, there were a lot of people there, and they mostly didn't know any of this music, so they were, they showed up, which is good. They were curious enough, and some people participated.
I would
it was
say
well received, though.
I think it was very well received for the teachers that wanted to be there. I think the amazing thing about VGM Con is everyone at our panel wanted to be there. And when you go to education conferences, some people are just there because they have to be or they're getting out of work. So
Clock hours.
Yeah. So I think we got much more of a
Warm
percentage of people participating in VGM Con. But I really enjoyed our experience at MMEA, and it was our first run. We had 150 people, so that's a lot of teachers who got to hear VGM and hopefully go into their classrooms and implement that.
Yeah.
It does surprise me when I hear that we're still kind of at a point where some educators are I don't know video games. Surely soon it's we all play video games.
Yeah.
What feedback have you got from educators, whether it be here or I know someone came up to you saying, I'm a music teacher.
Yeah, that band director spoke to you.
Yeah, I don't think we got any specific elementary teachers here, but we had some secondary teachers and some non-music teachers. I had an English teacher that come up to me and said that she would even like to maybe incorporate some VGM in her lessons, even if it's just playing it in the background, just very simple stuff, kind of like how we incorporate ELA in our classroom. So we've gotten really good feedback, and I think it was helpful for people. If it's not helpful, it's also interesting just for people who are interested in kind of the education world.
Yeah.
So I think, both types of people got something out of it.
At the Minnesota Music Teachers Convention, the people that wanted to be there, they really liked it, and so we did get a lot of nice comments from them, and they've bought some of our lessons, and we received a lot of positive feedback for that.
The presentation is very hands-on. You get the audience to do, you get them to do the lessons, essentially. Why?
I think the best way to learn is learn by doing in this sense. I think that just talking about the lessons is not as fun and not as engaging. And I think that getting to experience it is, it's just a more engaging way of doing it.
I mean, I purely thought it would be fun because, like, my elementary music education, we just sang songs out of a book. We sang like recordings, and it was boring. Like, I didn't do any of this fun stuff that we music teachers do now. So I thought it would be fun to share with people, and maybe that, like, you know, brought up or triggered like happy memories from their music education.
Is it weird at all kind of talking to adults, like, you know, kind of like their children?
It is, but it happens surprisingly a lot as a teacher when you have professional development and meetings. You have to do a lot of these sample lesson plans with adults, so I think we're used to it.
Yeah, I was worried that we would come off like condescending, though, like when we use our teacher voices.
Okay, students.
Hey, friends.
What are we going to do next?
For this, we're going to do this.
Well, one thing I noticed that I kind of laughed at myself, I almost felt like a kid at one point. You were talking about Journey,
yeah,
and so you were like, oh, what words come to mind, blah, blah, blah,
yeah.
And someone said sneaky, and you were like, sneaky, really good, and in my head I got like jealous. I was like, I could have said sneaky.
Yeah.
So I guess it goes both ways.
Yeah.
Speaking of Journey, have you played it yet? Because that's like my favorite game.
I've never played it. I've just seen clips online, and it's so beautiful. The art is so beautiful.
I have played it on the PS4, and it's one of my top 5 favorite games.
I thought you described it really well. You said, we begin our journey by ourselves, we collected people along the way, and we helped each other. Which,
yes.
Yeah. When I first played that game, and I just played it straight through, not knowing anything about it, I didn't know the people you collected were real people. I knew nothing about it. I was like, oh, crazy. I don't know if that's AI or whatever. And then at the end, it tells you all the people you played with. And I was like, oh,
yeah.
I had no idea.
Amazing.
Oh, I did want to mention, I don't know if this is just teacher specific or whatever. When I was in music class as a kid, which is a long time ago, you guys were saying doo-dee-da, like for
yes. Yeah.
8th note, 16th note, blah, blah. For me, it was ta, ti,
That is how I
and
do it.
takati.
That's me. So that's the California way. I think it's the superior way, but...
Okay, here's the reason for the Gordon method, which is what I use. Gordon. So we have do, do-day, do-ta-data. So everything starts with the syllable do. And so it's broken up. Okay, so if you start with a do-ta-data, do-ta-data, if you take do-day, that's half of a do-ta-data. Like, you're using the same words.
I think in the ta-tt way, it's just organized by the note. So ta is a quarter note, tt is 8th notes, takadimi is 16th notes, and so on.
Yeah,
That's so funny.
That's just what my district used, so I teach that way.
Right. I'm similarly...
I don't think one's better than the other.
It's not.
I wasn't trying
it's not
to...
better.
Of course.
Yeah. That's just what I am paid to teach, so...
Brooke, can you tell us about, you mentioned it at the panel, but can you tell us how you lied to an instructor for your senior recital?
Yes. So when I was getting ready for my senior recital, you have to come up with your program way in advance. Obviously, you need like a whole year to prepare, and you work with your studio instructor on this. And I had been studying with my instructor since I was a 9th grader. So it had been 8 years with the same lady, and I know her personality. She would not have approved of a video game arrangement. She doesn't see VGM as... what's the word?
Legit?
Legit. So I told her I wanted to showcase my arranging skills. She said, that is amazing. What are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know yet. I'll get back to you. Then I thought about it and thought, okay, I cannot say it's from Wind Waker. So I went back and I said it was a Japanese suite. And she goes, what kind of Japanese suite? And I told her, I was like, just like a Japanese composer that's very famous, and it's a really cute song. And that's all I told her. So that was the extent of it. So the whole year I got away with it. And then in the program it said, from the game Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. But at that point I was graduated, so she couldn't say anything.
Wait, did she react to it?
She didn't say anything about it.
She didn't say anything.
Did
Bummer.
you put it in the program? Like
yeah.
that? Okay.
I did put it in the program as correct.
You're like, haha, this is what it really was.
Yeah, but I was graduated at that point, so...
You're both playing here as well as presenting a panel.
Yes.
You're debuting Windfall.
Yes.
What's more nerve-wracking, performing or presenting a panel?
Oh, performing.
Presenting a panel.
Oh, Well, we did sing a song earlier, so for me, that was the scariest thing I've had to do this weekend. Singing is so, I don't know, it's so personal. And
it's so vulnerable.
Yeah, if people don't like your singing, that means they don't like you, basically. Like, that's your voice.
It's your voice. I mean, no amount of practicing is going to make me sound better, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And, like, I've been playing flute since I was 10, which is a very long time, so, like, I got this.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
You have both separately, I believe, been to Super Mario World? Or is that what it's called?
Yes. It's actually technically Super Nintendo World, but it should be called Super Mario World because it's all Mario.
There's no Zelda. There's nothing.
Who would win in Mario Kart there? Of the two of you.
Brooke. Definitely
You said it, not me.
Definitely Brooke.
What's it like? I would love to go.
It is so fun. You just walk in and you're like, oh, this is home. Like, I played this since I was a kid. It's so nostalgic. It's so happy and colorful. And yeah, it's really,
I don't know
really
about
fun.
you, Becca, but that Rainbow Road segment at the end of Bowser's Challenge, the Mario Kart ride, was like, I was going to burst into tears. It was so amazing.
I think I did cry, actually.
Yeah.
I also got first place in the game. I would like to note that.
I think I got fourth.
But you would win between
Mario
the two
Kart,
of you.
though.
In Mario Kart, the game.
Yeah, in real
I
Mario
see.
Kart, she's much better. You know, I just play for fun. I play for fun.
Becca, you've mentioned before the importance of trying to connect with an ESL student by, like, kind of learning their language, saying hello in their language, that kind of thing, make them feel comfortable, safe, blah, blah. Does that translate to, pardon the pun there, does that translate to music as well? Like, do you try to find, like, VGM or whatever from around the world?
You did your research. Incorporating VGM is like my new project this year, so I'm really just starting to do all the lessons that we taught in our panel. But before this, like, I've written curriculum for my district about, like, folk dances from around the world. I love dancing. Like, I was a ballet dancer, so like, that was super important to me, and it still is, like, the multicultural thing, because I have a lot of, like, really diverse students in my class, and I want them to feel seen and feel heard, and I want everyone to feel welcome. And, like, I feel like like, the gamer kids, the nerdy kids are not as well, like, represented in things. So yeah, I mean, I also love it too. So, like, doing something that I like in my job is also really rewarding.
Right. Brooke, what's the best gig fails people have shared with you?
So a couple weeks ago, I shared a gig fail. My phone went off in the middle of a complete silence. And so I had tweeted out, hey, would anybody like to share some gig fails? I had some pretty good ones. I would say the majority of them were percussion, and they involved a percussion instrument falling and slamming and making a very loud crash, which is arguably just as bad as a phone going off. I'm trying to remember because I had a lot of them. There's so many. I would have to look on my phone. But
well, if people want to check you out, Brooke, on YouTube at Medlix. Am I saying that right?
That's on YouTube, yes, with 2 L's.
Yes, Medlix.
Yes.
Becca, you are Becca Michaelson.
I think I'm just my name, which is boring.
BECCAMICHAELSON. And you can get your lessons and arrangements, if there are any educators listening, at teachers/store, or there's probably a .com in there, /store/flutiful, which is FLOOTIFUL.
Correct?
Yes.
Becca and Brooke, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Right now I have Daniel Audio Mocha with me right here. I saw your set earlier with the Indigo-Go's, which I asked Ian about, but I'll ask you about. He said you'd be better to talk to about it. So the story I told him was when I was a kid playing Doom 2 multiplayer, they had the two characters were indigo and green, but I was so young I didn't know indigo was a color. I was just like, oh, that's a sweet name, like, cool. So I'm wondering, like, how did the Indigo-Go's, where'd that name come from?
Oh, that's from Majora's Mask. So, if y'all remember Majora's Mask, where we had to get Lulu her eggs back to get her voice, her band was the Indiegogo's. And I mean, for me, since I do surf rock and like basically like Caribbean inspired music. So I mean, a whole lot of it is like cumbia, kind of like salsa bass. I just thought, hey, a Zora band kind of fits us pretty well. Though at first that wasn't our original name, because before I just said we're Mocha and the Duelers because all of us were pretty much from the dwelling of duels. But then I just said, let's do Indiegogos to fit the theme with, Oops, All Zelda. Turns out other people had that idea, so now there's multiple sets of Indiegogos here.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Well, I gotta say right off the hop, I first discovered you not even that long ago. It was a bonus stage episode, show, whatever, and like immediately, I like messaged my brother because we're both super into like surf rock, and I was like, you've gotta listen to this. This is so good. I like really love your stuff. Super cool.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you had the bubble gun here today. You had someone in the crowd with the bubble gun. What happened to the beach ball? I didn't see a beach ball.
Oh, so see, that was unfortunate. I was blowing it up today, like in the rehearsal room, and I know that like before I left home, I was feeling a draft coming out of it when I was deflating it, and then today I discovered there was a gash in it. I need to glue it back up because I mean it's a beach ball. They sell them for like $5, so obviously it's not going to be great quality.
Right.
I was pretty sad about that, but also I didn't have time to be sad about it because herding cats is a big task, and I had seven people, so
Right.
it was just a lot.
So another thing I talked to Ian about, you basically, obviously you were talking on Discord and whatnot before the show. You kind of were exchanging audio and knew what you were doing. But the first time you all really had a chance to rehearse here was today.
Right.
Upstairs there for a couple hours. How was that rehearsal? Was there any point where you're like, oh boy, I don't know if this is going to work?
Yes, it was. It felt like that pretty much the whole rehearsal because there's no way for us to hear ourselves in there. We had 2 practice amps and we needed a backing, like to hear our backing track, but neither of them were loud enough for it. And because of that, we couldn't also really hear each other well, so we kept missing our cues. And yeah, I mean, since like that's the thing about scheduling time with other people who are also incredibly busy with their own projects. So, the whole time I was just thinking, man, I'm not sure how this is gonna go. So, it had its ups, it had its downs. It seemed like people enjoy it, so I'm glad. I mean, I'm definitely glad about that.
Yeah, I mean, the show was awesome, and actually I was going to say, there were a couple little kids, I don't know if you saw, I don't know what you can see as a performer, but definitely there were a couple kids, like, really jamming out to it, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember there was this dude over to my right, but then I couldn't really, I couldn't really see because I had the big Red Bull table in my way, and I mean, that one was more of a, like a necessary evil, because I could have put the laptop down, but once I was doing a little bit of an experiment this time around, because normally I just kind of load up my tablet with backing tracks and then I just kind of tap on one, but this time I had mostly those regular kind of backing tracks, but then I was trying out this drum VST that I've got that is basically able to I'm able to just like use my MIDI controller to tell it, hey, loop this part for a while and put a fill right now, whatever, like generate something. It's like, so it's more dynamic, like just to have like the drummer that we were like sorely missing. So, that's why there was a giant Red Bull table and I was just kind of like locked into that area. But I got to see a nice amount of people kind of jamming out, so that was great.
For sure, there are lots of people clapping along, which I wanted to ask, do you have any message to fans like me who, loving the show, but I'm so shy about like the clapping or even like the cheering during the show or whatever, like, how do you encourage someone like me who's like really liking it, or is that annoying to you when you're like, hey, give me some feedback?
I'm still learning that bit, because I know people can be shy, and I know like last year I was on the hero stage, and I remember playing alone, and most people were sitting there. I was like, man, I want them to kind of join in, but I don't know how. And in the boss stage, it seemed to work out better. But I don't know, because it's also kind of like a two-way street as well. Because one thing that I was also missing is my mobility on the stage. Because one of the things I like to do is kind of get down on the stage and play and dance with people. This time I couldn't do that because I bought a wireless unit for VGM Con last year. It worked pretty bad last year. And then this year, I don't know if everyone noticed that my audio was cutting out a bunch in the first 15 seconds when I was starting off. I just had to switch quickly to a cable. And I was just kind of confined to that area because, 6-foot cable that I kept stepping on. I don't know if people saw that. So it's I couldn't really do much for crowd engagement in that sense. So I'm still trying to learn how to do it. I try to I don't know, I try to yell at people, hey, how's everyone feeling? Yeah, stuff like that. And the beach ball would have helped, but the rip. Because that's what I did last year. If you toss a beach ball at someone, no matter how shy you are, you want to hit the beach ball back. But
right.
I didn't have that luxury this year.
So it's obviously sweltering hot, a little better now. You're wearing a few layers when you're on stage. You had the Batman shirt on top of some other stuff. Was there any point where you're like, I got to take something off here?
Well, see, when I'm doing a show, I pretty much resign myself that I'm going to be super sweaty at the end of it because I try to do some dancing up there even if I'm kind of confined. And I made the choice to wear jeans because I don't know, it kind of looks cooler. So I just wanted to do that, even though I don't wear jeans in regular life actually. But the good thing about the Batman shirt is that it's not really much of a layer, and I thought I'm already sweating. It's already a whole bunch of suffering, and whatever. Plus, I come from the tropics, so it's not super unbearable. It's uncomfortable because there's just no wind here, but thankfully it's manageable for me.
Well, speaking of real life, to you, what is the most iconic cycling video game?
Ooh, okay. So, is this, I guess, cycling specific?
I know you're a big cycling person.
So that's a tough one because there haven't been many extreme sports games for the past 15 years or so. So, because back when Tony Hawk was a big was a big thing, I remember that there was Dave Mirra's Freestyle, but I never got to play that one.
I think it was Matt Hoffman too.
I think so, yeah. But then, and I always hear about Downhill Domination, but I never got to play that one back then either because it was just easier to find the Tony Hawk games because they were on GameCube. That's all I had. And then 10 years passed. There's just no, there weren't any cycling games at all, really. But then there started being there started to be a little trickle that's pretty cool. So I would say modern day one would be Lonely Mountain Downhill. That one is pretty fun. It's, I guess I would describe it as a roguelike mountain biking video game because you die a lot making your way down the mountain. So then there was also there's also another one. I didn't quite gel with the controls, Descenders. That I try to play it every one now and again, and it's kind of okay. So I haven't found a modern day game that's cycling game that's super great. Some of them get pretty close. There's also Pump BMX, but honestly, most of my cycling games in time is Trials Racing, and I end up just using the BMX bike in the game. So. Well, that's kind of cheating because that's mostly a motorcycle game.
How is your salsa cover of One Winged Angel coming along?
Oh, I haven't even started that yet, but I see you're keeping up. I just literally, I've been trying to think, how would I ever cover One Winged Angel? And I thought, all right, surf, I can make it sound kind of corny. But that's how Kokiri Bottom started. At first it was just a cornier cover, but when it ended up being. But then one time I thought, let me see how this feels if I had, the whole salsa style, but putting down anything on paper or in Guitar Pro, it's not coming, nothing has happened yet. Pretty much after I finished my Xenoblade album, sometime in May, and finally ship it out, I am not planning to look at sheet music for a few months because it's been a busy year, and I just want to play a bunch of games instead of like music for a while.
My next question was about Seas of Destiny, which is your Xenoblade album. Similar question, where are we in that?
So that one is mostly complete. So the unfortunate part is I thought I had production done, and then I heard a bunch of the tracks again, and I realized, man, the lead guitar is super loud, and I just noticed a bunch of production stuff that was just like, this is gross. I got to redo it. And then, so for a bunch of years, I kept thinking, how do I tackle the most iconic track in Xenoblade, Gower Plains? I couldn't figure out how to do it surf style, but then. Since I've been on my Latin kick, I realized this works amazing. This works amazing as a Latin track with more trumpets than you will hear like in regular surf. So I started arrangement on that sometime in February. That one needs a bit more recording. Like that one, I'm gonna get my trumpet teacher to help me out with the trumpets because. I'm okay with the trumpet, but I put some tough parts in there that it's just like, hey, I'm gonna need your help on this. But other than that, other than that track, every other track is fully recorded. So it's gonna be 10 tracks total. So right now, let's see, the list is. Let me see if I can remember off the top of my head. So there's Colony 9, which we heard today. There's Saddle Marsh Day. People tend to do night. So I wanted to tackle one that people didn't know much about, and I mean that one I kept thinking this is gonna sound amazing with slide guitar. Then there's Giga Rosa, which we heard today. There's Gower Plain. What's the fifth one? All right, Surfing with Zanza, which is really a re-recording of my old track, but in a way that I feel finally does it justice. Wave Slaying Board, which is a cover of God Slaying Sword, because I thought no one ever would ever think of seeing this in surf. It's tough remembering all the tracks, so I'll see if my memory gets jogged a bit down the line.
What about switching gears a bit? I know you were either making or have made a couple games yourself. 2013, you were working on Her Majesty's Conqueror.
Oh man, you're going super old school.
2D side-scrolling platformer, and then 2016, you were doing a 2D flight game, Sky Fighters.
All right, so Conqueror one. I didn't get super far in that one. I'm not great at drawing anatomy. So back then it just didn't get super far. I made some animations. It's like, oh, this looks pretty terrible. So I just kind of dropped it for a while. But then a few years later, like the flight game is the one that I got really far ahead with. That one. See, the thing that happens to me with games is I know how to program a whole bunch of systems. I know how I want it to work. So that one got super far. But then I thought, all right, what do I do with this now? But so I know there's some quirks to it. I was able to get some enemies working well, but they had some bugs that I just couldn't figure out. One of the tough ones was how to get an enemy to chase me, and if I went behind an obstacle, to not have it try to go through me through the obstacle, and if I'm. Try to avoid it, take a different path. That was super tough. I mean, Game Maker has a bunch of algorithms to help out with this, but it was tough to make it look smooth. And I mean, I know a bunch of the posts online said use two pathfinding algorithms where you have an invisible object up ahead, so that the enemy chases that invisible object to smooth out the path. But even then, for some reason, I just couldn't find it. And around that time, I started getting more involved with music. And honestly, the feedback loop for dealing with music is a lot more entertaining than coding, because coding is like, man, I do this for my day job. I don't want to go home and do this at night. Meanwhile, with music, it's just like, I'm gonna go use my looper and then just absolutely go ham. Making some stuff.
So presumably you were, a musician at the time. You just said you were getting more into music, but you obviously could play when you were programming those to some extent. I'm wondering, like when I make a D&D campaign, I kind of write it with a soundtrack in my head. When you're making these games where you're like, okay, I know the music I want to go here, and does that like lead the development at all?
Well, not really. Like, I definitely had tracks for Skyfighter, but it wasn't like the tracks weren't really leading the game. It was more like, oh, this would sound awesome with this kind of thing. But that ended up just kind of being dropped. Well, I want to say dropped, just kind of dormant. Maybe like eventually I'll pick it up and then take a look at my code and realize I don't know how to read this. Because the thing about game programming is that you look at something and it made sense at the time, but everything is so global and it's so tightly coupled that after a while it just kind of stops making sense. And I know that one thing that I was trying to do in the game is just make it as, I guess, more mathematical based as possible, because it ends up working kind of cleaner than just having a ton of if statements. But it also makes it kind of harder to read down the line. But yeah, soundtrack wouldn't really lead the game. It was more like, this would sound great with this kind of thing.
I'll end it here with I want to do a little game of Will It Surf. I'm just going to name a couple video games, and you can tell me, would this make a great surf song or not?
All right.
We'll start with Sonic the Hedgehog.
Well, which track?
Let's go Green Hill Zone.
Okay, well, that one's kind of cheating, because when I think of that one, I think of 130 Grit's cover of Green Hill Zone, so he's already done it. So that one definitely does surf. Yeah, I'm kind of cheating because I can hear it in his style. That's the way I listen to it the most.
What about the original Donkey Kong theme?
Wait.
Do 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 do.
Oh, that one. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Most old stuff, particularly if it's major key, will be pretty easy to make it surfy. So something that moves melodically pretty consistently works pretty well. So Donkey Kong would be a nice easy one. So I would think add some syncopation to make it interesting rather than just going fully straight. So I would say that would definitely work.
Daniel, Audio Mocha, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.